I want to talk about the reality of our internal makeup, what goes on inside us, and how do we determine who we are as people on an internal basis in terms of our identity. Who are we internally? Because when we look... You want to ask a question? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, speak up.
Why do you feel the need to stand up and speak on a Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon?
Why I personally feel the need? Well, I had many experiences over the past 28, 30 years with unconditional love, spiritual experiences. I'm speaking from my own personal reasons for standing up and speaking here. And I had experiences with divine love. It was supernatural, and when I experienced this love, which I will call divine love, it completely changed my heart. I experienced wholeness, I experienced peace, and I experienced a deep sense of identity. I will say I discovered who I really am. And it took me many years to process this. So I always shared with people on an individual basis, just throughout my journey for the past 25 years, usually one-on-one, occasionally speaking in a public meeting. And the more I experienced this unconditional love, or this divine love, the more I want to share it. And I know that the world in its kind of makeup and its current form is experiencing a brokenness of heart, or an internal brokenness in identity. That's the world at large. And people are looking for answers. And there are many people providing answers. And I'm one of them. And I say the answer is to experience the divine, particularly God's divine love.
And how do you experience this unconditional love?
How do you experience God's unconditional love?
Yeah, no. What is it that you feel?
What do I personally feel? Well, the first time I experienced it,
is it like, like for a few minutes, or is it just, like all day, or sometimes, or morning, afternoon?
Well, you're kind of asking me a question that is kind of subjective and kind of relates to spiritual experiences. And I don't know if you've ever had a spiritual experience, or some people call them religious experiences, or a supernatural experience. But personally, what I experienced was, the first experience I had that I could say something supernatural happened was, I experienced a power being unleashed in the deepest part of my being, let's say my belly or my inner being, deep in my gut. And when I had this experience, I instantly knew that there was a man called Jesus, and he was raised from the dead. And I was experiencing the same power which raised him from the dead. And it came out of me like in the form of rivers. And I personally experienced the divine fire. And out of that experience, a whole new part of my being came into my awareness. Up until I had that first experience, I just functioned in my intellect and my mind and my senses, and how I perceive things and process things around me. When I had this experience, a whole new part of my being was awakened, and I started looking at things through the eyes of my spirit, or this resurrection part of me, this divine love, and everything was wonderful. When I looked at things, there was a sense of wonder. Even when I looked at people who were behaving badly, or who were by the world standards, were ugly, to me they were wonderful, because I wasn't looking at them with my mind, or just my perception, or how they behaved. I was looking at them with my spirit, and I was able to look at them with the eyes of unconditional love. And because that was my first experience with unconditional love, and the actual euphoria of the experience lasted a few weeks, where I was kind of mesmerized, and my mind was blown. It was kind of a wow experience, which lasted for about 2 weeks. After that, it became more settled where I wasn't walking around thinking, wow. It just became part of my identity. And I continued to have these experiences. I never sought these experiences. What I personally wanted to know was reality above all things. I wanted to know truth. What was truth? What was reality? And that was just the heart cry of the thing that was really motivating me within myself. But when I had this experience, I continued the same way I always had been. I wanted to know reality. I wanted to know truth. And I continued having these experiences every couple of months at that time. That was about 28 years ago. And but I came into a settled, so today I have the experience all the time, but it isn't like I'm all hyped up. It's more a settled thing. I just know who I am. I don't need to always feel a sense of euphoria. Sometimes I feel a bit dumb, a bit stupid, a bit sleepy, a bit thick. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you feel a bit groggy. Or some days you feel a bit, you don't feel good, you just feel a bit emotionally beaten up. I have all this various emotional experiences, but now what's in me is a deep sense of knowing that even if I'm feeling bad, inverted commas, that isn't necessarily who I am. So what I would say out of all my sort of journey is I've come into an understanding of who I am. I am one with the divine, as are you. As is every single person here today, Muslim, Christian, atheist. We're all one with the divine. We're all loved because it's unconditional love. God is unconditional love. He doesn't judge us according to our outward appearance, our outward performance, our outward belief systems. Everyone's just grasping for truth and reality and trying to discover what's real. And we all can, and we're all on a journey. And if you're kind of believing something that isn't reality, if there's a religion that someone's believing that isn't reality, that will prove itself to be false in the end, and that person will eventually come to an understanding that they were wasting their time, and they will eventually come into an understanding of what reality is. So everything comes around. Everything comes out of the divine love of God and comes full cycle back into the divine love of God on that journey. So this is really, I don't know if that answered your question, but that is...
Obviously you answer in a very simplistic way with the time you have available, because obviously I don't know the preconditions of you getting to that experience. What was your emotional state? What was going on in your life?
Well, again, I find that, you know, I don't know why, obviously my sort of understanding of that now, what was my precondition? I was human, born in this world, like everyone is. So, you know, scientists and the sort of scientific thought will try to analyze something. I don't know if that's where you're coming from, sort of a scientific point of view. But scientists will try to analyze something like this, and they'll give all sorts of reasons of this and that. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and this world is experiencing a brokenness within itself, a loss of identity. That's why there's so much confusion and disorientation. And human beings are very powerful. What we believe internally about ourselves, we project. No matter who you are, what you believe, what your predominant thought is within yourself, that you will project out, or you'll radiate out. So currently, if you look at the world, what the world radiates out at the moment is confusion. I'm talking about the mass of humanity, the whole of mankind, is confusion and disorientation, hate and war. We all know there's something better. That's why people try to make peace treaties and try to figure things out. But really, these peace treaties are not lasting, because the internal makeup of man is insecure. He grasps to survive and provide for himself primarily, and his family. And when you take that onto a national scale, nations are grasping self-centered, looking after number one. And and then the net result is wars. So this confusion that is being projected out. But when man discovers his true inner core, the true reality of who he is, he will start to radiate love, and divine presence. And the scriptures are very clear that the mystery of God is that God lives inside us. That's the mystery of God that man doesn't understand. God is inside us in his divine love. He's so close to us, our identity is in that divine love. And when we have our mind unveiled and we become consciously aware, we can make the transition in our mind and begin to find our true identity and put aside the old identity, which isn't really an identity at all.
Let's assume you got this first experience, you're a special person, whatever the conditions are. Why not people who are real need to experiencing that energy? Bad people I'm talking about. Why is bad not communicating with them?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, I'd say I didn't get the experience because I was special. But
something has triggered.
Something has triggered it. I became aware that there was something more than just my natural self. And I didn't suppress that thought. I became aware that there was more to life than what meets the eye, i.e. the physical world. And I knew that my identity, I just innately knew this. I knew there was more to it. I couldn't put words on it, but I knew there was more to life and reality than what just met the eye, what met my eye. And I even logically thought through what the scientists tell us, the Big Bang, and I thought, well, even if there is a Big Bang, it doesn't really answer where life and consciousness comes from. And so it's logical that there's a higher consciousness, a pure intelligence, a pure person, a source person like God, or maybe it's a corporate, but I understood that just looking at the physical was not providing an answer. And I innately knew there was God, and everyone has that thought. So I wasn't special in that. Some people suppress it. I didn't suppress it. What happened with me is I ran with that thought, and I believed that, okay, there was some validity in this thought that I was having, that there was more to life than meets the eye. I believed that, it wasn't just about what we can see with our eyes, that there is a deeper meaning to life, and that meaning would be conscious, and there must be a pure intelligence behind the fabric of the universe, and it just isn't biological, mundane, physical matter. So that's what I concluded, and it was very logical to me. And I think that experience is available to everyone. Everyone can experience the divine, because everyone has got a consciousness, everyone has got a heart, everyone has got an inner being, everyone has got amazing potential within them, and everyone can listen to themselves, listen to their heart. When you get quiet, you don't need to become a religious person or join a particular religion. You don't need to become a Buddhist or something like that or anything like that. You just need to get quiet and stop listening to all the noise around us, which is telling us who we are. Get quiet and a little bit silent within your own heart. You can do it in the evening for 5 minutes and just sit quietly and listen to the depth of your being, and you will begin to experience words and things coming up within you that are completely innovative to you, completely new to you, that no one else has told you. And all you need to do is be quiet and you can experience it. But many people suppress this aspect of themselves, that inner quietness. They suppress it. There's nothing wrong with listening to TV and watching movies and listening to music and filling our heads with noise, but you do need to set aside a bit of time where you're a little bit quiet and you just listen to the silence that is within you, and you open yourself up to the unspoken words that come up within you that are completely unique to you. There is a unique you that is completely unique, completely unique, that isn't an imposed or conditioned identity that someone else has told you you are. The problem is, everyone is telling everyone else who everyone else is. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm Irish, I'm American, I'm African. These are all superficial outward forms. But you have a real you, which is deep within you, and is amazing. You can easily reconnect with it. It's easy. It's really easy to connect with yourself, because yourself, your true self, is always with you. And that's the most powerful part of your being. And the Bible and all that, you know, all these folks talk about the Bible and they talk about love, but really, I do believe in love, but I believe God is a God of divine, unconditional love, and I do believe God lives inside us in this form, not in the religious form, which is just a religious argument, trying to prove my doctrines to you or my particular way of believing. I don't need to prove to you that I believe this and you have to believe like me. I can speak to you in reality and tell you you do have an inner being, and I know you agree with me. Everyone has an inside consciousness and awareness, a true sense of self, which you can become more and more aware of. And the more you're aware of your true sense of self, the more liberated you become, because you begin to truly be yourself. But in order to do that, we just need to set aside a little bit of time and be quiet and be honest with what comes up within us and what we become consciously aware of, which is true thoughts. You can have genuine, true thoughts that are not manipulated by an outside source. Currently, all these things is everyone's trying to manipulate each other with outside thoughts. One person's telling you, you must believe like I believe. I've got the right ideas, all this list of rules and regulations that you must follow in order to connect with the divine. That's ridiculous. Why do I have to follow a big list of rules to connect with the divine? The divine would be connected with all of us, because the divine would not be superficial. Religion and arguing about religion and the different belief systems, that's very superficial, because all people are doing is scratching the surface. How can you heal someone who's truly broken in life by imposing a big set of rules on them, when all they're going to do is try to conform and change their behavior? So basically, we can all connect with our true inner selves by being a little bit quiet. And when you're a little bit quiet, what begins to happen is a thought starts to emerge within you, and it's a true thought that's coming truly from you. No one else. Currently, the media is imposing and bombarding us with the agenda of its own thoughts, which is usually to conform to the society in which we live, or to buy the products in which they're trying to sell us. And they attach this idea, it's called association, that if you buy these products, you will be fulfilled. No, you'll find true fulfillment by connecting with the true you, which is within you. The true you exists in the deepest part of your being and can be unveiled and uncovered. And the true you was created in perfect love, and in this present moment is now in a condition of perfect love, and that condition of perfect love exists within everybody. Every single person has this condition of pure, unconditional love within them in the deepest sense of their being, but they may be unconscious of it, they may be unaware of it because of the bombardment of the outer world on their consciousness, and no one has taught them how to reconnect or made them aware, so they've kind of got a bit disconnected and their mind is in a state of darkness.
The true me is when I let off steam at the speaker's corner and not worry about the inner self, but just say what I feel, and that's the true me, isn't it?
The true you, so let me repeat what you just said. The true you is when you let off steam at speaker's corner and not worry about your inner self. So basically what you're saying is you just go with the primary thoughts that you have based on the things that wind you up. And then you let off steam and you don't connect with yourself. Now that is shallow. Now I'm not meant to make you feel bad about that idea, but that's shallow. You need to go deeper within yourself. and just having an argument about you letting off steam. That may be a bit of a recreational move for you to let off a bit of steam. Okay, I'm sure it is.
Coming here 35 years.
But you do have an inner self, and the true you is very important.
He's not got one.
The true, no, everyone's got an inner self.
What all this gobbledygook you're talking about?
You see, that's the point. That's the very point that I'm making. You're actually making the point. Now let me say something. You're making, I'm no different. You don't need to bow down to me. You're being cynical. But what's this? What are you doing this for? You're being cynical, but my point is, in your cynicism, you're kind of proving my point. My point is that people are consciously unaware of their true selves. You said your true self doesn't matter. So what are you? Just a piece of cardboard?
Oh, my true self comes out when I...
Well, where do you get, what makes you let off steam? What motivates you, the need to let off steam? In other words, what is winding you up? So, something's obviously winding you up. Something's obviously winding you up to upset you enough to want to let off steam and to find it fun. But if you want to make a difference in life, to help someone, help people to reconnect with themselves. Because people do have a true inner self, whether you believe it or not.
Where does your God come in for?
Pardon?
You haven't got a God, have you? You believe in God?
I wouldn't get into, because I know where you're coming from and what you're kind of saying. And I wouldn't get into a religious debate with you because it's pointless. But what I'm talking about is people can experience their true inner self, and that is based on unconditional love. The outer world imposes an idea of who we are based on superficiality. And that superficial identity isn't a real identity because it leaves you feeling a sense of lack in life. Because if people are honest, about what they experience in life, they have a sense of lack. The world is experiencing a sense of lack, and I'm talking about mankind in a corporate sense. People experience a sense of lack in their identity, and they feel a need that if I can somehow get to this place in my life, I'll be fulfilled and I'll be satisfied. And therefore they run after various kinds of things like for religion, for example, or politics, or materialism, or relationships. But in reality, when you connect with your true inner self, you can have genuine relationships because you've got something authentic within you, and you can love, and you're not trying to fulfill yourself. Because if you're connected with your inner self, the true you that was created in perfect love, that is pure unconditional love, when you go into a relationship with someone, you've got something to give to them, and you're not judging them. You're able to give to them out of the generosity and love that's in your heart, and you're not trying to get them to fulfill you. In other words, you can actually give something positive and meaningful to them. So when you go beyond this conditioned idea of who we are, which is what the world imposes upon us, this is who you are. You're Irish. I was told when I was a young boy, I'm Irish. When I came to London, I was told that I was white. Up to that point, I never really thought about it before. But I got well, that's actually more true, pink. But when I got into a society where there's contrast of color, you become aware of the outer forms, of the outer differences. And all the outer differences, in my view, are wonderful and good and have to be celebrated. But what's really important is what's going on inside you, your inner identity, who you experience internally in your conscious awareness of your identity. Who do you identify yourself as? What is your predominant thought about you? And I would say my predominant thought about me and what I've experienced is pure divine love. When I started to experience this love, and I'll say it's supernatural, it was way beyond a religious argument. When I started to experience this divine love, I started to experience genuine peace and a genuine sense of wholeness and satisfaction. And I don't know if any of you know Mick Jagger, that singer. He sang the song, I can't find no satisfaction, but I try. And I try, but I can't find no satisfaction. That is a fantastic song that comes out of the world, and it's a very honest song. Mick Jagger was being completely honest about his experience. I can't find no satisfaction. And he had all the money, all the girls, and all this stuff.
And he was ugly.
And he wasn't able to find any inner satisfaction. So how can you experience inner satisfaction? It's only through having an experience with divine love. That's the only way. Listen to yourself innately. Like I said a little bit earlier, when you get a little bit quiet, and it's okay to be quiet because we hear a lot of noise. We hear the radio. I watch movies when I go home on Netflix or whatever. I listen to the radio or listen to music. But it's very important for us to set a little bit of time aside where we can be quiet. Just be silent and try not to listen to the noise in your own head, and just listen to the silence that exists within you. And out of that silence, that divine love will emerge. Some people call it meditation, but I'm not talking specifically about doing a religious exercise that's called meditation, because you don't really need to attach any kind of religious form to it. You can just sit quietly on your sofa or in the park bench and be quiet internally. And you can call it meditation if you want to, no problem, right? But you can experience the true you, and the ultimate way is just being quiet and stop listening to all the imposed noise that we are bombarded with, which attempts to tell us who we are, which attempts to steal our identity. Don't let anyone steal your true identity. You have a true identity which you can truly discover and be awakened to. I talked to you a little bit, what's your name, sorry? Max. I spoke a little bit earlier to you and you asked me, you know, when I talked about spiritual experiences, my first spiritual experience was when I was awakened through the power of divine love, and I became aware of a whole new part of my being, my inner being, a spiritual aspect to myself. Up to that point, I was only aware of my mind and my emotions and my intellect. But when I became aware of my spiritual being, my inner being, I started to look at things through the eyes of love. But it wasn't a manufactured thing where I was trying to look at things through the eyes of love. It was just something that literally happened within me, where I became...
What is the origin of this power internally? What is the origin of this power?
What is the origin of this power?
Yeah, it's the power inside you make you happy. What's this power?